Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Mull for Wednesday, the 20th of October. Following Robert Murray McShane, one of the chapters we read today is from Paul's second letter to the Thessalonians, the first chapter. And I was struck by Paul's opening greeting as he says to the Thessalonians from verse 3, "We ought always to thank God for you, brothers and sisters, and rightly so, because your faith is growing more and more, and the love all of you have for one another is increasing." And so he has this picture of this church that is growing in faith, that is being blessed by God, that has their love abounding. And it's a kind of picture that we'd all love for our churches. It's the kind of thing we look for and think, oh, that'd be so good if our church could be like that. But he continues and he says, "Therefore, among all God's churches, we boast about your perseverance and faith in all the persecutions and trials you are enduring." He's not boasting about their love. He's not boasting about their growing faith. He's boasting about their perseverance in the persecutions and trials they endure. So despite God's blessing, despite the fact that the church is growing, despite the love, despite God's hand clearly on them, they still experience persecution and trials. Back in the first century, that was probably par for the course. Any church that is being blessed by God would experience persecutions and trials. I suspect it is true today as well. That if a church is ineffectual or not having any impact on society, no one will care about it. The minute the church starts impacting society and changing lives and challenging people, there's a reaction and the persecutions start. And so the fact that there are trials and persecutions doesn't mean that God isn't hearing, that God isn't listening, that our prayers aren't answered. It might well be a very clear indication that God's Spirit is moving. And I believe that's not only true for churches, but for individuals as well. And so often we're tempted to think that if we are experiencing persecutions and trials, it's because God isn't there. In actual fact, we might be experiencing persecutions and trials in our personal lives precisely because God is there and His Spirit is filling us and He is working in our lives. So encourage one another with this idea. And if you're undergoing trials and persecutions, be strengthened, be encouraged. Know that you're not abandoned. It's not that God isn't there. It might be because God is there. And if you're not experiencing that, it doesn't mean that you've walked away from God, but encourage other people that are experiencing that. So be encouraged in your walk with God day by day and continue praying for His church, that we will be able to make enough of a difference that the world will notice and know God's blessing in your life each day.